There's a scene that plays out in my workshop at least twice a month. A bloke drives in with a $120,000 off-road Caravan, sometimes more, and the list of what's broken reads like an insurance claim. Slide-out mechanism jammed. Chassis weld cracked at the A-frame. Water pouring in through the tunnel boot. Wiring loom chafed through because nobody ran it clear of the chassis rail. Washing machine ripped off its mount somewhere west of Coober Pedy. Fridge door hanging by one hinge. The van has done maybe 15,000 Ks, half of it on gravel, and it looks like it's been through a war. Then an hour later, a bloke pulls in with a camper trailer he bought for a third of the price. Needs a new canvas zip and a suspension bush. That's it. 45 minutes, back on the road. I've been watching this pattern for 20 years and it never changes. The more complex the rig, the more there is to break. The heavier it is, the harder every corrugation hits. And the more money people spend, the more betrayed they feel when it falls apart. So today, I'm giving you my repairers list. 5 camper trailers that cost a fraction of a high-end off-road Caravan, and that, in my honest opinion, will still be going long after the expensive rig has been stripped for parts. I'm Liam. I'm 50. No sponsorships, no brand loyalty, no agenda. Everything here comes from what I've seen roll through the workshop and from documented owner reports that back up what my hands have been telling me for years. Let's get into it. Number 5 is the Trackmaster Gibson. Trackmaster has been building off-road rigs in Bayswater, Melbourne since 1995. That is nearly 30 years of continuous operation. In an industry where brands collapse every few months, that alone should tell you something. The Gibson is their compact pop-top, about 13 feet long, and it's built on a one-piece galvanized Australian steel box frame chassis that extends all the way to the rear bumper. Independent coil spring suspension, enormous ground clearance thanks to a high rear cutaway body, and a tare weight around 11 to 1,200 kilos depending on spec. Let me put that in plain language. This thing weighs roughly a third of what some of those big off-road Caravans weigh. That means every pothole, every corrugation, every creek crossing is doing a third of the damage. Less weight, less stress, less failure. Inside, you get a pop-top with standing room, a 3-burner stove, a proper bed, marine latches on every cupboard, and a layout that hasn't changed dramatically because it didn't need to. New, a Gibson will run you somewhere between $50,000 and $65,000 depending on spec. Used, you'll find solid examples from $35,000. That is serious off-road capability for the price of a mid-spec family sedan. Good luck breaking one. Number 4 is the Patriot X1. Gold Coast designed and built, 100% Australian made, and it has been refined over nearly 10 years of continuous development. The X1's foundation is a Ridgolite chassis, laser-cut, interlocked and hot-dipped galvanized steel, structurally riveted to a marine-grade aluminium monocoque body using 2.5mm sheeting. Fancy words, so let me translate. The chassis and the body are essentially one unit. There are no separate panels bolted on that can flex, separate, or let water in. The whole thing is a sealed box on wheels. Ground clearance is among the best in the industry. The departure angle is absurd. The turning circle is tight enough to follow a short wheelbase 4-wheel drive down tracks that would rip a 20-foot Caravan apart. Cruisemaster suspension, automotive seals on every door and compartment, and a 5-year structural warranty. Prices start at around $40,000 for the X1N and go up to roughly $60,000 for the X1H, with all the bells on. Independent reviewers have called it the best soft-floor camper trailer on the market for genuine off-road ability, and after working on a few, I agree. The quality of finish is professional grade. Panel gaps are tight. Latches don't rattle. Dust ingress is almost non-existent, which is remarkable for something that goes where these go. For less than half the price of a big off-road caravan, you get a trailer that's actually designed to survive the terrain those caravans only pretend to handle. Quick favor, before we hit the top three, and stay with me, because number one is a rig I genuinely believe will outlast anything on four wheels. If this is useful, hit subscribe. It costs nothing, and it helps get this in front of the next person about to sign up for $120,000 headache. On we go. Number three is the CUB Frontier. Cub has been making campers in Australia for 57 years. 57. That makes them one of the oldest continuously operating camper manufacturers in the country. The Frontier is their forward fold, and it's the only forward fold camper trailer that is 100% manufactured in Australia. Australian steel chassis, Australian canvas, stainless steel kitchen, and CUB's own Easy Wind silent winch system that lets one person set the whole thing up in minutes. It sleeps 4, carries 100 liters of water, and comes with a 7-year structural warranty. 7 years. Most off-road caravans give you 2 on manufacturing and 5 on structure. Cub gives you 7 on structure out of the gate. New price sits around $58,000 to $64,000 drive away. A 3 to 4-year-old used example will run you $35,000 to $40,000. The tare weight is under 1,400 kilos, meaning it tows behind a mid-size wagon without drama. Here's the thing about forward fold campers that repairers understand and buyers often don't. They are mechanically simpler than a caravan. No slide-outs to jam, no complex plumbing running underneath where rocks can destroy it, no chassis flex points created by a long, heavy body. The engineering is concentrated into a compact, rigid package that absorbs punishment instead of transmitting it into weak points. That is why a 57-year-old company can offer a 7-year warranty with a straight face. Number 2 is the Lifestyle Recon R2. This one sits in a category Lifestyle calls a hypercamper, which is basically a compact hybrid that's built like a tank and sized like a small caravan. Queensland built, with a body that's about 14 feet long and sits below the roofline of most four-wheel drives when towing. Cruisemaster suspension is standard. The DO35 off-road coupling gives serious articulation, and the entire underside is clean. Let me repeat that. The underside is clean. No plumbing, no tanks, no wiring hanging underneath waiting to be smashed by a rock. Everything is tucked up inside the body where it belongs. That single design decision eliminates probably 40% of the damage I see on off-road caravans. Owners have documented 600 nights and counting in a Recon R2 across some of the hardest terrain in the country, Pilbara corrugations, Cape York Creek crossings, and reported nothing more than minor teething issues in the first few months that were resolved under warranty. The build quality on these is outstanding. I've had one in the shop with 60,000 hard Ks on it, and the seals were still tight, the latches still solid, and the chassis showed zero sign of fatigue. New, the R2 will cost you between $60,000 and $80,000 depending on options. A 3 to 5-year-old used one sits around $45,000 to $60,000. For the price of half a premium off-road caravan, you get something that goes further, breaks less, and comes home in one piece. And number 1, the one I'd put my own money behind if I was heading into the deep outback and needed to know my rig would bring me home. A used track trailer to van. Track Trailer has been building off-road campers and caravans in Melbourne for over 30 years. They went through voluntary administration in 2024 and restructured. And I mention that up front because honesty matters. But the T-Van itself, the product, has a reputation that borders on legendary. Owners have driven these things across the Simpson, up the Canning Stock route, through the Kimberley, year after year, and the stories are always the same. Nothing broke. The chassis didn't flex. The suspension ate everything. The tent still sealed. The Caravan is a hard-body pop-top camper on an independent trailing arm suspension system with a galvanized chassis. It weighs around 1,000 kilos. 1,000. You can tow it behind a Hilux without thinking twice. The compact footprint means it follows your four-wheel drive through wheel tracks and tight scrub that would leave a full-size Caravan wedged between trees. Used Caravans from the Mk4 and Mach-5 generations sell for between $40,000 and $55,000. That is a third to half the price of a new off-road Caravan, and I would back a 10-year-old Caravan against a brand new $120,000 rig on any track in this country. Not because the Caravan has more features. It doesn't. It doesn't have a washing machine or a dishwasher drawer or a 10-inch touchscreen. What it has is 30 years of focused engineering aimed at one thing: surviving Australia. And that is exactly what it does. So the recap: 5 camper trailers, all cheaper than a high-end off-road Caravan, and every one of them built to outlast it. Number 5, the Trackmaster Gibson. Number 4, the Patriot X1. Number 3, the Cub Frontier. Number 2, the Lifestyle Recon R2. And number 1, a used track trailer Caravan. My honest takeaway, and it's the same one I give every customer who rolls a broken Caravan into my workshop, is this: complexity is not capability, weight is not strength, and price is not quality. The most expensive rig on the lot is often the one with the most things that can go wrong, and when you're 800 Ks from the nearest town, what matters is not what your van has, it's what your van doesn't break. Every one of these 5 trailers costs less, weighs less, tows easier, and has a longer track record of surviving hard country than the showroom shiny $120,000 off-roaders I see limping in here every month. If you're thinking about dropping 6 figures on an off-road Caravan, do yourself a favor. Go and look at what a good camper trailer can do for a third of the price. You might never go back. Share this with someone who's about to make an expensive decision. It might save them 60 grand and a whole lot of grief. I'll see you in the next one. Travel light, and let the track do the talking. This content reflects the presenter's honest opinions based on publicly available information, including documented owner reports, independent product reviews, industry data, and first-hand workshop experience at the time of recording. Individual experiences may vary. Always conduct independent research and seek professional advice before making any purchasing decision.